Hello and welcome to TMKF Netrunner. I'm not Yeti, and this video is a tournament report. Primarily, I'm going to be talking about the final recent UK regionals in Sheffield, and I'm also going to do a little bit talking about the Man in the Moon online pre-World Showdown from last weekend. Yeah. Basically, to start with, I'll do some just very quickly talk about the online showdown. It was an online tournament. I played it on my own, so just in this room, and I just listened to Eve's Tumor on repeat, which was very nice. Kind of helped me get in the zone, and I had a really fun time with it. Um, so for that event, I played this runner deck. So this was Hashiko. This is like pretty much the version of it that I've been playing for a while, except that I took out Finality and put in Hannah. Just because I didn't know if there were going to be a lot of assets. Um, and Hannah's really good into like the MBN asset decks, so I wanted to play that. Um, yeah, in the end, this deck didn't end up going all that well for me. I think I went 1-3 with it. All of the games were close, which when I talk about my Steve deck in a bit, like isn't always true. Like sometimes you play Steve and you have kind of a non-game. Whereas I never have that with this Ashiko. It always feels good. But I also have lots of games where I like lose and it's really close. Um so I'm kind of putting the deck down. I think I'm putting the deck down. I think the deck is very good, but maybe just like not quite good enough. Or maybe people are just good enough at playing into it. I'm not really sure why it's not good enough. It feels like it should be. Maybe it's my play, but I think it's something to do with the composition of the deck. I'd be kind of interested if somebody wanted to put like some real effort into doing like Reg Hashiko that maybe didn't play Turbine, maybe played messed around with this Breaker Suite. I'd be super interested in it, but I don't know what I'm kind of out of ideas for that. So I'd be super interested if people are doing it, but yeah, I'm kind of this kind of where I'm at with the deck for now. Um, so yeah, that was my runner for the showdown, and my corp for the showdown was this, which is a version of the Azmari, which uh, is on, importantly, to Rototurret. So Rototurret was a card in some of the combo kill Azmari decks from before we put Punitive Counter-Strike in it. So they would use this because it was a hard gear check, and if you get to fire it off, it's actually really impactful. You get to trash a breaker, and you can like secure the game on its own. It's very good. Um, so like I feel good about the. It was a card that I've known about for a while. It's one influence, and I've been talking about playing it for quite some time, or like threatening to put it in a deck, but never actually doing it. And then Cobra Bubbles took basically following EMEA, where we had the version with Piranhas and Send a Message and Serevna. I kind of felt that there was no way to improve that deck, which I think is wrong now. But at the time, I just really looked at it, and every time I changed it, I thought, well, I'm on 2 Dupestad and 3 Predictive. That is 14 of my influence. Um, I like almost all of these slots. There's like nothing I can do. Um, and then the process started playing Master Chessfo. Um, but there were still kind of some questions there, I think. Um, and then Cobra Bubbles brought the version that was playing RLC, F2P, and Master Chessfo. And that really felt like he'd actually made like a lot of progress with the deck. It took me a long time to be convinced that any of that stuff was that good. F2P is in those lists because, and he sent a long message to the Discord at some point, which I remember reading and finding kind of difficult to swallow, right? Which was, if your remote server is ping F2P Mr. Chessfo, you can all of those three are hard gear checks, right? Because they'll be tagged by the time they get to the F2P, which means they can't break it, which means you can bounce a breaker, which means they can't break Mesny. That was the thought process with that deck. And he has had a lot of success with that, and it allows him to play the RLC, which I think is really nice. But for me personally, what I really want in most games is to jam cards early behind ice, behind whatever ice I draw, and to be able to like fire the combo off. And we were talking about it, and him doing really well with that list made me think, okay, well, there is room to mess around here, and I do like the Messnies. And so I thought back to this idea of Rotor Turret, and the thing that made me excited by it was that Cobra Bubbles had identified that Kit was his worst matchup. If Kit sparks into a low B before turn 4, it can be really hard. And without that perfect server and a bit of luck, you don't really have an answer to them. And I thought to myself, look, Rotor Turret is a really good answer to Kit. Anywhere other than the outermost ice, it forces Lobi and Orca, which I don't think any kit can do reliably, like that reliably by 10-6. And we're really forcing the issue. So I tested this, which is on one Jupstead and one Hosh, one Neurospike, and it went 4-0 and did really well. It beats the kit matchup. It makes the Lat matchup better, I think, because Lat also needs to have a way of getting all of their breakers down, even though Revolver breaks Roto for 0. And I think it just makes broadly all of your openings stronger. There's no world where you have to worry about ice placement, really. You just kind of send it. And so I really like this version of the list. And I was testing that with the team following. So at the end of that, I missed the cut by one game, I think, at the Showdown, which is totally fine. And yeah, that was super liked this version of the list. I did a little video about the finals of that tournament where I talked about this list a bit. And yeah, but ultimately, I think the Rotor Turret essentially is in my opinion, borderline correct. It's less messy than F2P and everything else. The one thing we found was that it does have a fairly bad crew Hosh matchup, and potentially criminal with Amakua as well, which I think most criminal these days are playing Amakua. So what did that lead us to? That led us to this deck that I played in this tournament, which so there are a few learnings here. One of them is I like Neurospike more than Jubstad, and I think even if I had the influence to spare, I would sooner play 2 Neurospike than play one of each. Why do I say that? The lines of scoring re-education, drawing 5 cards, and looking for the Neurospike on the 5-card draw are very real. They come up a lot in situations where, because our plan is to win fast, to just score out, we have a lot of situations where you have a 1-turn window. And what you have to do is you have to push the combo without the kill piece, and you have to go looking for it. And I think it's really nice. It also gives you kills through Class Act, kills through Stone Chip, which are the biggest tech that's being played around us. So I really like it. Big fan of double Neurospike. Second thing that we've changed, we've cut Klavetnik and we've put in Wraparound. That is because of the Crew Hosh matchup. Wraparound does something in the matchup. It requires them to get a Devil Charm out to deal with most of the time, and can use up a Devil Charm, which can make the second push work. But it's kind of unclear a little bit what the numbers should be there. 3 ping, one wraparound, more wraparounds. It's like it still does its job as a 2 credit gear check, but it's objectively worse than ping if they're not on AI. So it's like to be discussed there. And then my last influence spent here is on Malia. Malia is there also for the Criminal Crew Hosh matchup. Basically, I wanted, but Malia is there to blank Stone Ship, Crew, or the Class Act, right? And so the game plan is we take Malia, we install her in a new remote server. Sometimes we have a second iced server, which we often use putting Rashidas and Spin Doctors in, and that can be used for Malia. And sometimes we can just put her on the table because the runner often doesn't have enough clicks to go and check the board. And Malia being 3 to trash is quite big. In this version of the list, like criminal players are really disincentivized from installing Miss Bones because we don't have Dupestead anymore. And so like often it can blast when it blanks a class act, you feel like God. And it's like another thing for them to worry about. Like every face down card might be you bluffing Amalia. Or you might catch them unawares. So yeah, that was the thinking of this. I wasn't convinced by the Malia. I didn't play any test games with the Malia before. Or no, I did, but I didn't. It didn't come up before the tournament. But I just decided like it's the 15th. Oh, it's the 40th card. Like I don't mind sending it. So yeah, this is what we played for Sheffield, and then for the runner, I just played Kikai's Banhar Steve as published without any changes. We talked a lot in the intervening 2 weeks about what we could change. But this is another incredibly influence starved deck. It's really hard to make changes. I find identifying them really difficult. And I think that like he cut the Miss Bones and wasn't punished for it, and I thought I could probably get away with it too. So that's where we are. So those are all of the decks. Yeah, okay. So now we know what we're playing. We are going to Sheffield. Now Sheffield there's a direct train from Norwich where I live, but it's about 4.5, 5 hour train journey. But it is direct and it's kind of like quite easy to do. But Cursor, who was also coming to the event, offered to drive and offered to like split a hotel room, so that was really nice. And like a couple of weeks before, like a week or something before, the regionals, they were posting in EA Sports Discord about some like 2000s short-lived DIY hardcore band from the UK, and I like quite liked the song. It was like fun vibes, and so I said like, "Oh, brilliant! Soundtrack to Sheffield is sorted. Then we could just listen to a bunch of these." And so the morning of the tour of our drive up, they sent me a picture of like 40 CDs that were all from like free from the front of fanzines or that kind of thing. And so our entire drive up was us listening on like high volume to these like tiny DIY hardcore bands from the UK. All of the songs, like, there are some really good bands in there actually, but like 90% of the songs sound interchangeable from each other. Just like vocals you can't hear the words to, incredibly simple drum beats, like incredibly loud. And it was so fun. Like, I don't know, I just love those kind of bands. I like went to so many like local punk gigs where it's like a different band but they sounded the same, and that's like, I don't know, I enjoyed that. It's like all before my time but clearly like super nostalgic for them. So um yeah, we had a blast. I really enjoyed that trip up. And then yeah, we where we arrived, we checked into our hotel. We went to the pub. I can't remember what it's called, but there was a really nice pub that I've been to before in Sheffield. Met up with some others. Ended up going around to Commune, which is like a UK nationals tradition. Is you go to Commune, which is like this kind of indoor food market slash bar place. Like there's lots of different people selling food, and there's a few different places to buy drinks, and they've got these big tables, and you can get a lot of people around, and like it's kind of a nice place to hang. Except that in the years since I was last there for UK Nationals last year, it's gone downhill. Like loads of the places have closed down. The place that did nice beer is gone. And we were like the only people in there, and it is this like huge space. But there were like by the end like 12, 15, somewhere around that. Like Netrunner players who'd come and were chatting and just having a really nice time. And I just had like a really good time. I chatted to like four people who'd come down from Scotland. They were from Dundee, I think, and they were really nice. And just had like a nice laugh and a drink, and it was just like a super nice way to like finish off regionals because this is like the last one of the year, so it was like just a super sweet time. Um, yeah, and I think like that was pretty much it for the night before. Um, Kikai had been on a holiday in Barcelona during the week and flew basically like straight from Barcelona to London and got the train straight to Sheffield and had entrusted me with his decks. So I was bringing all of his decks, I was bringing all the prizes, and I was really worried that I'd got some like screwed something up and it was all going to be terrible. But it all ended up working out fine, which was nice. We went for breakfast in the morning, to a place where EA Sports has gone a few times, called like the Birdhouse, I think, and that place like is quite a nice breakfast spot, just like pretty like middle of the road but decent. Except I've been there twice now, and I've had poached eggs both times, and they've been terrible. Like solid in the middle poached eggs, which I don't know how you do, but it's just like of all of the kind of eggs to screw up, I think poached eggs is the most egregious. Um, but I did have some really nice mushroom toast underneath those terrible eggs with some very nice hash browns because I was mad hungry, like so hungry and so thirsty all day. I spent literally the entire day. I probably drank 4 liters of water, 5 liters of water, just like always thirsty throughout the whole day. Very strange, but yeah. So that was it. The tournament was at Patriot Games, which is where UK Nationals normally is. So it's actually quite nice to like go there and have a one-off like reason to go back to the spiritual home of UK Nationals, even if this year we're not hosting it there. Um, so yeah, turn up, write my deck lists out, and so I kind of start get going for the tournament. I'm feeling good about my lists. Steve is like a bit of a dice roll sometimes, um, but we'll figure it out. So round one, I pair up against I think it's Saurian. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I've met him before at tournaments, but just like chatted, not played against each other. Very nice guy. And he was playing R plus and Sable. And R plus is like one of those ones where if you kind of make a mistake, you can just lose the game, which is I think where the power of those decks are. And they do push the issue. Like I think those R plus decks lost a lot with Bologna, but people are learning how to live without it now. Um, and he played it very well. I got to 5 points like fairly comfortably before he'd scored anything, and without ever risking floating a tag. And I got two steel skin in hand at one point quite early, and I thought about baiting an end of the line at that stage, like floating a tag, letting him fire it off, and then like trying to, and then I'm like so much better having used up some combo pieces and not had to clear that tag manually. But I thought about it and I thought like if he plays Mindscaping first, which he will, and he misses some of the steel skins. Like, I'm not actually going to bait out the end of the line with 4 cards in hand, so decided against it. And eventually, like, he does score a false lead on top of an amaze, and I'm starting to get a little worried. Pushes a second thing, and I think now's my time to go for it. I look at my hand, and it's still 2 steel skin, a class act, and 1 other card. And I kind of think to myself, okay, if I end this with one of this run, so me running the road, if I was like, I'm gonna Banha through something. I think I was expected to take 2 damage. I was like, if I Banha through this and I end with 1 steel skin or the class act in my hand, I will be fine because I can run HQ, get the other one back, and survive the kill line, or like have good odds to survive the kill line, even if I'm taking 2 tags. So I run the remote, and I end up taking the damage, and it hits steel skin, draws 2, hits the other steel skin, draws 2, hits the class act on like the 1 in 7, and all of my pieces to survive go. So, pops the false lead. I have 1 click left. 6 points. He's been federaling for a while. So I'm sat there, and I think there's no way for me to win here. Unless I can get into archives. I still didn't have my cleaver down, so I didn't know. And there was a card out on the table that was face down that I assumed was a spin doctor, but could have easily been an agenda. So I run the spin, or run the face down on the table, and it is a spin doctor, and I die. Which isn't the best way to get off. I probably should have just jacked out after taking that unnecessary damage, let him get the second false lead, because at some point I only need a single access, and I don't, if like those 1-pointers are out, it's so hard for him to do like a good push in the remote. So I think like misplays from me there. First game of the day against R+, and it's easy to make a mistake, and I did. And maybe I got a bit unlucky, but I definitely got a bit flustered. So we lose the first game of the day, which is sad. I'm looking at it, it's 5 rounds of double-sided Swiss. Now, if you go on the web, like one of those websites to help you do cut math, it would tell you that 7 and 3 is safe, except for the fact that 7 and 3, I feel like double-sided Swiss really makes the bubble much larger, because you actually have like fewer people ending on more wins and fewer people ending on fewer wins because of 2-for-1s and IDs. 7-3 is actually going to be big, is my thinking. So, yeah, lose game 1. Game 2, I'm against a Sable. I pushed the kill as Azmari on like turn 4, and I don't actually have it, but I feel like it's safe, and I want to be in a position where I can top deck it. So it's there, it's got 2 advancement counters on it, and so I'm going to be able to like click 1 draw, click 2 combo, click 3 pop off, or like win the game, or like something like that. I might be able to play cards, see how it goes. So I don't get off the top, and I think I install them as a spin doctor, and I don't get it off of that. So I keep drawing up and then discard down. So I'm still there, I can still do it next turn. And then at the start of turn 6, I look down and I wonder to myself, how many cards left are in R&D? And I look, there are 10 cards left in R&D. I have in my hand Sudden Commandment and a Predictive Planogram, which is 1 click, draw 5. So I'm thinking about it. And I realized that when you score re-education, you draw 5. You bottom 5, draw 5. Which means that this turn, in my first 2 clicks, I can draw 10 cards. There are 10 cards left in my deck and 2 Neurospikes in there. So I'm guaranteed to draw a Neurospike this turn if I go for it. So I send it, I don't see one off the first five. I score it, I draw two on the next five, and I kill. Which felt really good and made me feel good about the double neurospike to some extent. Um, but I also just really like seeing the line and having that there. And that was turn 6, draw your entire deck. If you can turn 6 reliably draw your entire deck, I think we're all right. Like you can't do that in every game. But this is one where like the pieces came out in a good order, but not the perfect order, and we were able to draw a whole deck in by turn 6. So that was great. Round 2, I play against Stacey. I think it's Stacey Aston. And they were really nice. I was like getting a little nervy about like I don't know, feeling like I was making rules mistakes, whatever. I called a judge at one point, and they were very like chill and like, mate, don't worry about it, which I appreciated. And then yeah, so game 1, they were on the outfit. Personally, as Steve, I hate running into the outfit because economic denial against the outfit is really tough, and having like a longer game plan is also really tough. Um, but fortunately in our game, I managed to make the outfit totally broke, and they never see a too big to fail, and I get uh, to like just rip agendas and win like quite comfortably, which is really nice. I think if they'd drawn a too big to fail at some point, like in the first 6 turns or something, they'd be a lot better off, and it would have been a much harder game. But it went well for me in the end. Um, yeah, and you're sat there. I've just recurred. I think this is a pattern I see with Steve a lot. I've just recurred diversion of funds. I've got Power Weave on the table, and uh, you're on 0 credits. Start your turn. Do you click for 3? If on your turn you click for 3, I'm going to run HQ, steal one of them. Or I'm going to diversion of funds you and steal all of them. And how are you ever getting to like play hedge fund against the Steve deck if you're on 0? You need to extract, you need something, and just clicking for a credit when I'm going to pan weave one of them feels so rough. And that happened that game. Second game against Lou. Now, secret, I've not practiced any games as Azmari into the freedom list that's doing the rounds, but I assume it eats us alive because it can trash operations, and it probably plays AI breakers, right? Like it's gonna be awful, I'm sure. But like I'm happy to try and dodge it into us and like come up with a game plan when it comes up. So I played against the Lou. Turn 1 they install Imp, and I kind of think to myself, right, okay, if they are on like Audrey or something and have some luck, maybe I probably can never keep them out. But very fortunately, like I don't think we talked about it afterwards. They hadn't like practiced into the Azmari. They'd just like played a few games against it and found it pretty tough. And so I'm able to push out the kill. I think like yeah, if they can imp the agendas in the remote and like camp the remote, and then like if they can't get into the remote, run HQ and try and imp combo pieces, they're doing pretty well, I think. So, but fortunately, I get to push the combo on turn 4. They use up the first imp. They install the second one. But it's like I'm just going a bit too fast. So at the end of round 2, we're 3-1, which is very nice. Round 3, then we go for lunch. I go with the Sheffield. Is it the Sheffield crew? I think so. To go get burritos. There's a burrito place near the venue that's really nice. That's really sweet. And then yeah, round 3, I get paired up against Turge. Now, I really like Turge. We've only met in our tournaments a couple of times, specifically the UK Nats last year, where I swept Turge twice, once in the team event, once in the main event, and I could like tell that I got in his head a bit. And then this tournament, he in round 2 just played against Kikai, who is on the same IDs as me, basically the exact same lists. Same runner for sure. and they'd split. But it's kind of clear to me Turge is like not happy about having to play two quite difficult matchups uh, against like those opponents and me, and he's had a long drive. Um, so he's like not thrilled to be honest, and played the first Mercury game, and I don't know how it went against Kikai, but he plays like the Mercury very conservatively, trying not to get punitive. And I'm able to just like push the kill in a triple iced server like fairly early, like turn 4 or 5. Um, and like I could tell that he was like frustrated that he didn't really like get to play his deck, which I think is fair. Um, I think there's probably games where Mercury just like steals 9 points, like by turn 4, and there are games where Mercury doesn't do that, and those are the games that Mercury loses. So, and then we played PD game, where I keep like a slightly dodge opening because it has Docklands pass, and I kind of think like PD as Steve is still something that like is very much unsolved, but you just get games where they um run away with it, where they just like absolutely win on turn 8. You can't economically pressure them, and you win. And then you have other games where you land a doof, you get an early agenda, and they can't like defend centrals well enough, and they're remote to like keep up with the pressure. There's basically two types of games, and they're both quite one-sided in a sense. Um, and I kept it because of the Docklands, because I was just like, I just want to rip some points early. I think that's probably like a bad play, but the rest of the hand was fine. I think my turn 1 was like install Docklands, play some economy, install Panweave, hitting a steel skin, run HQ, steal 2 points. And then turn 2 rolls around, I land a doof and steal an Ikua. Um, and then after a couple of turns, Turgelight just concedes, which I think is very fair and makes sense to me. Um, like we're still pretty early in the round. Um, Playing out of this position is going to be difficult, and he seems to be like getting frustrated by his draw. Um, and yeah, I'd clearly like, so yeah, I think totally fair concede. But at the end of that, we're 5-1, so we're feeling good. If we believe the rumors that are going around, we can ID into the cut 7-3. Now, I know I got paired down against Turge, and I think maybe that's not true, but I got the impression that my opponents, I didn't have a good strength schedule. And round 4, I get paired up against Cursor, who is also on a lower record than me. So isn't going to want to ID, probably. Might have done, but 1 is the person I drove here with it as a teammate. 2, we'd played this matchup in the pub the other day and I won all of the games. And 3, like I don't believe that 7-3 is actually safe for me. So I say, can we play? And like because of the rotor turret, I've not lost a game against Kit since playing that in the deck. I don't think there's much Kit can do. I think like you just like are so favored in the matchup because of it. Unless people are playing some tech that I don't know about. And I think like you can still just do it off centrals. Catalog a mad dash, score 4 points at a turn, like is a very powerful thing. So yeah, and basically, we mulligan into a hand of 4 agendas, which isn't really a problem, but we need tools to get out of it, and we totally fail to draw any of the cards in our deck that say the word draw on them. Over the course of the first like 5 or 6 turns, I draw probably about 15 cards, and all of them are ice combo pieces or like agendas. And I end up chucking all of these agendas in the bin. At some point, there's those are points where it's 6 points in the bin, and they could just like Mad Dash Archives, deal 7 points. Like I don't even have spin on the table, so it's like run archives, you can see it, jack out, run back with mad dash, win the game. Um, and also, despite the fact that they're kit, they are not playing any events. They install 3 daily casts by like 10 2 or 3, so they do have money, but they're not giving me money off of the events. We talked about afterwards, and they said like they only did that because they had it available to them, like they wouldn't not get money just to deny me Azmari. Um, but it ends up making like a big difference, and so I pushed the combo on like turn 7 or 8 because I literally just like couldn't draw into it, and they sparked into Orca first, but then they get a second spark into Lobby. Um, and I basically just like it's the first game in a tournament where the deck has totally bricked on me. Like I actually couldn't do it. Like the deck is so consistent and it managed to give me one of those draws where I couldn't do anything. I think Cursor played it pretty much perfectly, and they said that they think you basically have to play perfectly to have outs. So like I think we're in agreement. I don't think they could have played any better. It was very good. I tried at a second combo turn. Oh yeah, after I do the first push, they get the full breaker suite up, they run. They end on something like 7 credits. And I end up being like 1 or 2 credits short of getting a punitive kill because they don't have Anacam and they don't have Stone Ship at that point. Um, so like I almost punitive killed, but I was actually credits short. I had um a like uh attitude adjustment, which got me 2 credits up, but I needed to get 4 credits up. If I'd drawn or I think if I predicted I wouldn't have got there, but I could have maybe sudden YDL'd got there, or just maybe not res some of that ice. I can't remember. But yeah. So we lose. I do concede eventually because I actually like look at it and I don't think I have a winning line anyway, and it's double-sided Swiss, so why play it out? And yeah, very, very tight game. I think Cursor went 3-0 versus Kit over the course, versus Azmari over the course of the day. I think I was the only Roto one, so I'm like the only one that was favored. But yeah, played incredibly. And then I played against their sports metal. I don't remember quite as much about that game. I know I got a lot of doofs off, and I know that I kind of leveraged the fact that I knew they were playing a lot of, or they were playing 2 Hollow Men and some Trank Grids. So I couldn't remember if they were playing defensive upgrades or not, but I basically thought that, unlike when you're playing against PD, where you read it as a Managarm, I'm going to play as if that's not a Managarm, and I'm going to send it. And so that's what I did, and it was actually like a really good call. And I steal points from the remote, I steal an Ikua, I eventually win on Centrals. I do it in like relatively few agenda steals as well, which is nice. So the end of all of that, end of round 4, we're 6-2. And it's become clear to everybody else as well that 7-3 is not safe. And I think with my record as it stands, if I ID, I'm at real risk. I know that Cursor is probably going to 2-for-1, and that if I get paired up with Rotom Appliance last round, so who is top of Swiss. So if we ID, like there's a world where I get in, but I'm probably banking on Cursor winning their game. And like not everybody else in the cut IDing. So I'm thinking about that for a while. And I'm talking to a Rotage who says, like, do you really think you can sweep Rotom? Like, realistically? And I think to myself, and I'm like, no, I cannot. But I really, really want to play Rotom. Like, basically with the Azmari deck, Rotom Plus is a snare bear, and there have been some snare bears who've been like very vocal about how bad the Azmari is. Rotom, world champion, one of the best players in the UK, and I really think I can take the court game. Steven to PD, I'm like not at all confident that I can take that. I just don't think he's going to overextend and make the mistakes that like people will make. But that doesn't matter because getting into the cut is now no longer my goal for this tournament. Beating Rotom Appliance in a game as Azmari is my goal for the tournament. So first game, Steve against PD. I mulligan to try and find Banhart. I don't find it. And he wins the game on turn 7 because Luminal, like, is crazy. And, like, I don't get any doofs off. He installs a Gatekeeper on all 3 central servers, and I don't see my Cat's Cradle or my Banhart, and he wins on turn 7. I do get a couple of, like, I do like lock R&D to some extent and like really try and pressure HQ and get a bunch of accesses, but that doesn't turn into agenda steals. Like there's 1 or 2 turns there where it's like if I steal that Luminal because I ran our HQ when it was in hand with a Docklands, and if I steal that Iqua, which I don't know if it was in hand when I ran, then like it's a whole different game and maybe I can crawl back into it, but that didn't happen and we lose. Don't feel bad about that at all. Wasn't expecting to win that game. Then we come to the Azmari game. So, Rotom Appliance is normally, or like famously, a criminal player. And has been playing 419 and Sable for as long as time to tell. But he's testing Lat for Worlds. He's one of the players going to Worlds. And so Lat is like one of our worst matchups, but for me, I'm like totally fine with it. I've played a bunch into Cobra Bubbles, and it's hard. I think it's winnable. I think like, yeah, we just got to see. So we sit down. Look at my hand; it's good. I've got like everything I need except an agenda. Click one of the game. So I like jam a Rashida behind a piece of ice and draw, I think. Click one of the game. Dirty Laundry R&D. Steal the re-education off the top of the deck. The 1 in 13 chance on this board state to steal an agenda, and he gets it. Which is world champ difference, I guess. You gotta, like, better lucky than good. No. He's very good, and like we can play out of that. It does massively decrease our odds of winning this game though, and like the fact that one of the combo pieces on our deck says if the runner accesses this card, remove it from the game, is actually like really big. If you lose them, it's tough. So yeah, keep playing, and then on like turn 5 or 6, I've built my triple ice remote with 3 different gear checks. I have 2 hollow men in the remote. I draw, I look at my hand, and I don't have the agenda still. But I do have a Rashida. So what I do is I put Rashida on the table, and I think to myself, either we can draw a pinhole now, like as in, it looks like I'm threatening the combo, so we're going to get pinhole now. If he doesn't have pinhole, he might have to run this remote and not be prepared for it, or overextend, or whatever, but maybe I can fire off this Rashida and get the pieces I need. So he sits there and he thinks for a really long time. And this is like turn 5 or 6, I think. And he goes like, look, I don't have it. If there's a rotor turret on that server, it's rough for me, but I need to run. So he trick shots, doesn't see anything off the top of the deck, runs the remote server. Res Master Chesvo, he pops SMC to go get it. He's already got Pressure Spike on the table, so he pops SMC to get Unity, spends all of his money, or like spends all of the trick shot money and like 1 or 2 real credits. Res Rotor Turret, trash Unity, because I have like other code gates in hand, so I figure it's better EV than the trashing the Pressure Spike. And then trash the Unity, and he goes like, do you win the game? And I go, no. And I res Rashida and fire that, and then Do get the agenda. There are 5 cards left in R&D. Four of them. Oh no, 5 cards left in R&D. Oh, wait, what happens? I fire the Rashida. I don't get the agenda. I click to draw. I do get an agenda, and I install. Then I kind of look at my hand, and I realize that what I can probably do is sudden uh, to draw 2 and play YDL. And I don't need the money, but what I do want is to take agendas out of R&D and put them in the bin because I've got a spin doctor on the table. So I kind of think to myself, like, I can draw 2, very likely draw into some agendas, and then I can bin them and reduce the number in R&D. He's currently only got 3 cards on the table, so stealing 2 degree mills is going to be, like, not trivial. So maybe we can just do this. And so I do that, draw 2 agendas, put them in the bin, and get to double advance the Rashida, or double advance the agenda. And he looks at it, thinks for a long while, and then installs Copulation. And I think to myself, brilliant. We've got no agendas in HQ, and if it trashes itself, he can't necessarily steal degree mill. But also, there's not that much we can do. And then his click 2 is trick shot, and I realize how bad this is for us. We've got 2 and 5 in our 3 and 5 in R&D, I think. Our agendas, and 2 in archives. And so what's going to happen here is he's going to trick shot. He's going to run spin doctor with part of the trick shot click, and then click 3 is going to run back on R&D, steal whatever he sees. And at some point in this process, he'll cup something to remove an additional card from the equation, and then he'll probably just run back on R&D, but maybe he'll cups HQ. Last click. Our outs to win on this board state so slim. I actually, unless he makes a mistake, which I don't trust to, I actually think that getting this deep into the deck, the agenda density just gets so high that I don't think we actually have odds to win. And he trick shots and just sees 2 off the top, and wins the game. I thought about using the spin doctor before the access. I would have to shuffle 2 agendas back in, I think. Maybe you bluff it, but I don't think you should. To make it so that the agenda density becomes higher. It's 5 and 7 or something, maybe 5 and 6. Our agendas, but he's only gonna get 1 access. It's probably bad to do that. So I don't know what you do. Maybe you bluff it. Maybe it's your only out as you bluff it, and make him think that they're in HQ and he could cups in. But yeah, he wins the game, and I lose, and I'm kind of gutted because I was this close to winning. There was a turn where I pushed where if it hadn't been a bluff, if instead of the Rashida in the remote, I'd just drawn the agenda, and if he hadn't turn 1 stolen an agenda, I would have had it turns before. I probably could have pushed even earlier behind that triple iced server. But them's the breaks. You play a combo deck, sometimes you can't put your combo together. Because your opponent can disrupt your plan. But I actually feel really good about the fact that I had such a close game with him. Yeah, it felt good. I mean, there's no guarantee I win that game. I just needed to get it. Just need to get it earlier. I could have maybe iced out R&D near the end and played around so much. I had a Messney in hand, so then maybe there was a sequencing thing I could have done on that final turn. I think especially if I'd top decked it and had an additional click, or maybe could have fired the sudden earlier. I was trying to replay that game in my head, but I couldn't find the winning line near the end there. Maybe there was one. But at the end of the day, really nice guy, really lovely opponent, and two super good games of Netrunner, I think. All of that to say, I end up missing the cut. I think if I ID'd, I would have got in, but that doesn't really matter. I achieved my goal of playing against Rome, even if I didn't win. Um, and so yeah, that was fun. Um, After the tournament, or after that, um, two of my teammates make the cut. Uh, Cursor got in, and Kikai got in. Unfortunately, they get paired round one. Uh, and then uh, Cursor beats Kikai's Azmari, played it fantastically. I think both of them played very well. Um, there are a couple of really clutch decisions that Cursor made in that game, which gave him the edge. I think I think it demonstrated all of the reasons why I want to play Rush Turret. Um, and then continued watching, and then the finals was my friend Source against Rotom, and Source rolled Asmari, and I was very excited. But just because if Source could do it, I would have been over the moon. Unfortunately, like Source didn't get that. I don't like. I wasn't paying close enough attention to know, like, if there was any world where he could have done it. Sometimes you just have games where you just don't have it against Lap. The Lap matchup is very, very tough. So yeah, um, he also wasn't playing Rototerra, which I think would have helped. But uh, so yeah, two Asmari in the cut, two EA Sports in the cut. Get a hang around, watch the finals. They're great. Like, talk to everybody, hang out. Lots of like friends are still around, and it's nice. End up going with like Max and Lap and a few others to um, the pub down the road, which is like a brewery, and they had burgers on, and the beer was good, and the burgers were fine. Which, to be fair, after playing like hours of Netrunner, I just like needed to inhale some food. I didn't feel hungry, but I knew I was. I just needed to like get it out of my get it like into me and like start driving home because by the time that we leave the pub, it's like 9 o'clock. We've got like a 15-minute walk to the car, and then a looking at Google Maps, it says a 3 hour journey home. Now our journey up was way more like 4.5. We had a break, we had like a pit stop, and we had like a couple of like wrong turns, and like it was during the day, so there was more traffic. But so Google Maps says like you can go home. We're dropping off Kikai, adds 20 minutes, not a problem. 3 hours 20. Can we get home just after midnight? Would be lovely. By the time we actually like, get to the car, get in the car, set off, I plug in that we're gonna drop Kikai home. It's like we've got we're gonna get home about 1 a.m. according to SatNav. Fine with me. That's that late. And then as we're driving along, we hit the A1, which is like the main road we drive home on. And there's just a wall of road closed signs in front of us. And we're like, oh god. And the sat nav in Curse's car does not know about this road closure and refuses to like direct us any other way. So I'm on my phone reading like the map and trying to figure out where to go, and we end up having to cut across country, and I'm like a slightly nervous passenger. Like Curse was a very good driver, but I just get a little like nervy in these situations. So like I'm just like spend the next like hour and a half directing Cursor to get back on our route, and by the time that we're like there's a second road closure on the A1, like way further down, where we also have to come off and I have to start doing directions. Um, and by the time we drop Kikai home, it's 2 in the morning, and we still have an extra hour to drive to Norwich. So we drive that home, and I get home at 3 a.m., which is way past my bedtime. I am beat. But really lovely day. Really lovely way to like cap off nationals. I just had a really fun time. Really enjoyed spending it with Cursor and Kikai. Seeing friends. the whole regionals season has just been amazing. Like I love going to these tournaments, especially when I go the night before and get to like go for a drink with people. And with all of that said, UK Nationals is in like 6 weeks, which is gonna be the same thing but like on steroids. It's gonna be great. So yeah, if you're one of the people who watches these videos, but you're not somebody who always gets out to tournaments, come to UK Nationals. Even if you're not from the UK, you should come to UK Nationals because it's probably going to be like the size of Continentals or like one of the biggest tournaments of the year by far. Our pricing looks incredible. Brendan Watt did so well. Um, yeah, I'm gonna be playing in that. I think that's the next tournament I'm gonna play in. So I'm just really looking forward to that. That is probably this is like an hour long video. That one's gonna be probably like 2 hours long. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I will speak to you. I'll see you at UK Nats. Bye.